And good afternoon, everybody. It is 1 o'clock Central Time. My name is John Russell, and along with me today, we have Mr. Joe Tanner, known as the Lowry Mailman for many, many years. Good afternoon, Joe. How you doing?
Hi, John. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you here. Now, first of all, question, how you holding up during all of this?
Well, we're doing okay. We have enough food in the house to last for a little bit. We go outside. We don't really go all over the place, and it's interesting because I'm finding out that I actually have kids that I can talk to, because it's kind of a neat thing. We're getting to know each other better, which I think if you want to take some good things out of this stuff, I think the family things are starting to appear again.
I think that's true, and I guess. One of the things that I like to talk to you about, and as I mentioned to you, I know you, I don't know you that well, and we know each other from the comedy business.
Yep.
And you, for many years, ran comedy at the Loft up in the north suburbs. Was that Coon Rapids?
Coon Rapids. It was the old Tequila Berries. It was. Laughter. They used to have all the prime rib you could eat in the Loft, and when they got out of their paddy wagons, came in and we started Laughter in the Loft, and we were there, I think, almost 6 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember that very well. It was a nice little room, and you got a lot of work for a lot of comics in the Twin Cities. Now, you have been doing comedy for about how long?
I'm going to say it's if you count a little gap in there, it's been well over 20 years, because the kids were small, and it started off, I wanted to try it. And there was a class that Stevie Ray, the improv guy, started.
Oh, yeah.
It was 6 weeks, and then at the end you did a little show. Well, I didn't know it was improv, and I didn't know there was a difference between stand-up and improv. So I took it, and it was like, what is this stuff? And it was fun. It was different, and you had to be quick. You had to be quick on your feet. I know you've done some. You have to be good with it, and it was fun, but it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to do stand-up. Well, then he offered a stand-up course, the same thing. And then at the end of the 6-week period, then they had a show. And so I'm guessing that was over 25 years ago. And then I found out about open mics. And Hanson had some of those going. St. Anthony, Maine, I think, was one of the first ones I went to. So I'm going to say it's been 25 years since I first started.
Yeah. That's so that's good. And you were in with a lot of what I would consider the Minnesota Mafia of comedy, right?
I worked a lot with Scott Hansen and Dave Mordahl. We had a number of times, and Mary Mack. She's not in the Mafia, but I've got to work with all these different ones: Harmstrom and Michael Thorne and Bob Larson and Alex Cole, and it was just a lot of fun meeting some of those people. The one I regret I missed was Mitch Hedberg, and I think he passed just kind of as I was getting into it. I'm not on that.
Yeah, Mitch Hedberg is one of those people where if people knew him, they loved him, and also loved his demons, because he had a lot of them, I guess, right?
Yeah. And I told my son about him, and he had never heard about him. I said, you got to watch him. Go on YouTube and just bring up a little Mitch Hedberg. Next thing you know, Bryn's whole little mob is watching Mitch Hedberg stuff. That was cool.
Very good. In fact, last week I had a little chat with Kristen Anderson, and she's got a great story about working with Mitch Hedberg and how her son was showing it to somebody else, and her son says, "My mom opened for that guy, or that guy opened for my mom." That was it.
Yeah.
You can go back and watch that. It's from last week. It's much better when she tells it than I do.
Well, I got a Kristen Anderson story.
Oh, let's hear it.
We were at the Loft, and we were for some reason the Loft was being occupied. It was a Thursday night, and we had her show was Kristen Anderson's Girls Night Out, and it was in the kind of I don't know what you'd call it, like a conference room in the hotel. It had those doors that you could slide. At 5 o'clock, I called the owner of the bar, and I said, we have 52 people coming. 52. So we had the room kind of set up for 60 or 70. It was girls' night out. when I got there, what I liked was people would make reservations. They would call me or make them online, so I knew how many people were coming. We ended up with 184 women that showed up. I got there and they were going out the door. And we had no idea. So we ended up having to pop that conference room open. We had some of the women helping. Jason Schamer was there. Kristen, we were all setting up tables. We had to move the stage and everything and had that bar set up like a $5 wine table. They would have been rich. And it was just, wow.
My
That
gosh.
was a fun time. That was our biggest crowd. I think she and Alex Cole had the biggest crowds we ever had there, almost 200 people.
Alex Cole, there's another one of the guys that was very, very funny.
Mm-hmm.
And he's within the last 4 years or so, kind of doesn't do comedy as much. Didn't he move down to Chicago?
Moved to Chicago, yeah. Alex wanted to get out of comedy, and he wanted to get into some commercial work and some stage work and stuff like that. And I haven't talked to him for a while. He did tell me, he said, any one of my comedy jokes you want, you can have. So, and I said, I don't like doing other people's stuff. Plus, you can't, it's hard to copy somebody's joke and tell it and have it be funny or have it seem sincere.
Absolutely. Well, so let's move to the moniker that you were given on KQRS here, and you were kind of a fixture, kind of a part of the show. You were a postman for many years as well.
Yeah.
And became known as the Lowry Mailman. Tell us about that.
Well, the station I worked out of was North Minneapolis. It was the Lowry Post Office. And one of the listener segment letters, because if you sent in too many listener segment letters under your own name, I think it was Bryce at the time, would just say, hey, you've already sent in like 12 this week. So I came up with the moniker, the Lowry Mailman, and I didn't tell anybody, that I was sending in these letters. And they would play KQRS at the station while we were sorting our routes out. And they read this story and they're laughing. And anyway, Bernard goes, signed, the Lowry Mailman. And of course, the people at Lowry Post Office are like, Lowry Mailman, that's us. Who's the Lowry Mailman? They didn't know it was me. And I was fairly new to the station at that time. And they were just wondering, who the heck is this Lowry Mailman guy? And finally came out who it was. It was me. But it was kind of funny having kind of a secret code name and nobody knew it was you. And yet, here's the guy over there with the fat head letters, and they're just thinking it can't be that guy. Look at him; he looks like a putz. It was me. So, and now because I ended up leaving Lowry years later, somebody said I should be known as the what was it? The comedian formerly known as the Lowry Mailman.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that came from.
Yeah, that's excellent. And so, and you were a mailman for how many years?
It would have been 20 years this February had I not had my happen.
Yeah, and do you want to tell people about that a little bit, because it's I don't want to say it's unique, but you ran into some pretty stiff problems, didn't you?
A couple of them. I ran into a couple stiff stares too. What happened? I'll just say what it's called because a lot of people have never heard of it. It's called functional movement disorder. Functional movement disorder, it's pretty much described as your hardware is working and your software isn't. It's like your brain is sending a message out to like got my hands here, like move the hand this way, and it might not. It might start doing something like that, or your legs. It's affected me mostly with the walking. And my wife and I were at Cub Foods one night, and I remember we were in the produce section. Not that matters, but my legs just started crisscrossing, just like you're out of control. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." And I had to hang on to the cart, and we were laughing. It's like, this is silly. And it's like, it's like, are you so hammered or wasted? And it's like, we hadn't had anything to drink, and it just kind of started appearing that way. And then the falls at work started where my feet were crisscrossing and acting up. And we kind of started figuring things out, like, okay, there is something wrong. It's not going away. And obviously I wasn't drinking or doing drugs. It was something weird. And they would send me to different places. Like, we figured, it was something neurological or something. And they checked me for MS and ALS and PMS and every other S there is. And they couldn't find it. But we thought, well, it's something. And it turned out it was. They told me to go down to the U. So we went down to the U, and the doctor said, you have ataxia. And I don't know what ataxia was then. I don't know what. Good. They finally, whether it's good or bad, at least you have something, a name to it that you can refer to it. And so they sent me to this place, and John, I kid you not, this room was about half as big as a football field. And it was this big room where all these people were walking around. They were doing the same thing that I was doing. They were crisscrossing and walking and flopping. And I thought, well, I'm home. Your leader is here. And it was kind of like the island of misfit toys. And I thought, this is what I have. I have ataxia. And they examined me and did some things. And they said, you don't have ataxia. And then I was pissed again. It's like, well, so I wasted my time coming down here. But it actually turns out you didn't waste your time. You got to cross one more thing off that list. So then where I was sent to was the Mayo, and the Mayo Clinic, I think, is the last time I saw you. You were doing the shows at Goonies.
Yeah, that's right.
The open mic the one night. But so I was down there that week for a boot camp. They send you to a boot camp, and they're going to reteach you, retrain you on how to walk, which sounds stupid. I mean, it's like, I know how to walk. What do you mean you're going to retrain me? It was almost, I thought, am I going in as a stroke victim or something like that? And they said, no, we're just going to show you some things. And they took a video, and the videos are on YouTube. If people ever search functional movement disorder, they'll see what I look like on there. But it turned out being bow-legged, my shoes would hit, and they might tangle each other and mess each other up. So I had to learn to walk with a wider gait. And they said your arms, when you walk, people's arms swing back and forth. They said, you're only swinging on the one side. Only my left arm was swinging, and they couldn't figure that out. And so you had learned all these little tricks on how to walk properly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say with just the one arm moving, they probably thought that was your pimp swagger.
Yeah, that could have been. One exercise they did that was interesting was the game Bop It. If you remember, the kids had to bop it and actually bop it, twist it, hit it. I had to walk in the halls with this Bop It game. And they said, we're going to walk around the halls 3-4 times, and you have to play Bop It. And by concentrating on that Bop It thing, twist it, move it, hit it, bang it, you would forget about your feet, if that makes sense. It's like you had something else to worry about. You're worrying about trying to keep up to the Bop It guy and get the best score you can. And so there's something to be said for that too, because that was interesting. It's like, hey, I'm walking better because I'm concentrating on something else. Some of the exercises they had us do was hold like a tennis ball and squeeze these as you're walking, because now again you're thinking about squeezing the tennis balls. There was one game they played, and it was very frustrating. When you get frustrated with this FMD, it really messes you up too. And what they did, they hid these little cones around different places in the gymnasium, and you had to go find them. They'd say, well, there's 10 of them, and you'd find the easy ones. And those last 8, 9, or 10, they would hide them in the damnedest spots, and you couldn't find them, and you would get frustrated. And then you'd get frustrated, and then you'd start with the shakes again. So that was one thing you have to learn. And then when you get the shakes, what the exercise was to do was to get me frustrated. They wanted to, because then they could say, okay, now that you're all worked up, now what you need to do to reboot yourself is you get in a corner and you just stand and you flex your muscles as hard as you can and hold your breath for 30 seconds and you release. And you do it again, and you do that 2 or 3 times, and your body does kind of, to some degree, reset itself, if that makes sense.
It does.
And sometimes you have to just say, screw it, and you just sit in the chair and just let it run its course for a couple minutes. It doesn't hurt. People look at you and they think, oh, does that hurt? It doesn't. It's just like you'll be standing there and your arm might flare up. And one of the things they did at the Mayo, and hopefully I'm not telling too much information, but they did like an electric, your right side, and it looked like a finishing nail with an electric probe hooked to it. And they poke it into your arm. And the guy said, and he wasn't holding back his words, he just said, this is going to hurt like a bitch. And he said, we're going to stick it, and it's going to go to your bone, and then we're going to insert into your bone. So it's okay, and that hurt. But then when they zap you, I mean, it hurts. And he did it all the way down, and then he went down the leg, and it hurt. All the way, every time they did it, it hurt. And then he went to the left side, and then he was doing it, and it wasn't hurting hardly. And I said, why aren't you zapping me with the same voltage as you did over there? And he said, I am. And it was like weird. So it's kind of my left side. It kind of reminded me, do you remember the movie Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Remember when the pretty girl and then the guy, and they were trying to make money, and it was some sort of a guess the card.
Yeah.
And then the girl guessed it wrong. Bill Murray would tell her, oh, you're amazing, you're right. Then the poor guy would get zapped. It was like that sort of a zapping scene. It was just, but so anyway, so it's kind of on the left side. We've determined that. And well, I'm going to jump ahead because whatever. Well, anyway, so jump ahead. We're at this birthday party for this gal, and 60th birthday party, I think it was. And we get there, and I think I'm having a great day, and I'm walking around, and we're there about 10 minutes, and I thought I'm doing really well. People can't tell there's anything wrong. And this guy comes up to me, and he goes, "Hey, are you Joe Tanner?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I know you." And you know, people come up, they know you from a comedy show or something. And I thought, that's probably from that. And he goes, "No, it's not from a comedy show." He goes, "You got FMD." I thought, how in God's name do you know that? And he said, because he goes, "I'm friends with the gal whose party it is. And she told me, she said, there's somebody coming who has the same thing as you do. And he said, don't tell me who he is. I want to pick this guy out." And he told me that story. And he goes, as soon as you got here, you 30 seconds in the house, he goes, I could tell you had it. He goes, you
Wow.
were flopping and you were trying to hang on to the stairs. I thought I was having a pretty good day.
Yeah.
And maybe he knew what signs to look for. That's part of it. But what I like about him, and he's become a great friend. And I could sit here and tell you all day long what this stuff is like. He knows what it's like. So that's kind of neat that we met, that we share things and talk about our different falls we have. And
Absolutely. So now on an everyday basis, is this something that is happening all the time to you, or does it just happen to flare up from time to time, or?
it's a time to time thing. And sometimes because the post office retired me for a disability on this. And sometimes I feel guilty because I could be, because they gave me a handicap placard so I can use a handicap spot if need be. Sometimes I feel bad because you feel like there's nothing wrong. You're walking through the store, your feet don't hurt, your legs are gone, you're walking right, both arms are swinging the right way, and God, it might be next day all of a sudden the crap hits again. I guess it didn't go away. I've had, 3 years ago, I let the pup out. It was Father's Day, and I thought I was doing okay. And the puppy went outside, and she kind of went around the bush. It was midnight, so she kind of went around the bush just where she normally doesn't go. And she was just a baby. So I went to go get her, and the feet crisscrossed going down the stairs. And we only have like 3 steps in the front, but it goes like a rock garden. And because I'm young and nimble, I knew that I was going to fall. And I was doing one of these running falls where you're running forward. You know you're going to happen. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to somersault out of this. Well, I didn't somersault out of it. I summered. I don't think I salted, but I hit the collarbone.
Oh.
And I've never broke a bone before. And so I didn't get up. Actually, I laid there. I felt like Rose. Remember Rose on the Titanic when she was floating?
Oh, yeah.
She's, help me. I was doing that. And of course, the dog came up and licked me, but that was it. But everybody else is in the house. And I finally got up, and I knew something was bad because there was a big lump here that normally wasn't there. And I went into my son and said, I think you have a dislocated shoulder. So he was trying to pop it back in, and it hurt like a bugger. It's like, oh, this is crap. And it turned out it was, I don't know if you want to call it a shattered collarbone, but it was in 5 or 6 pieces, which they can't really glue back together. So my collarbone, and it kind of, these pieces look like almost like spearheads or the end of a, whatever those guns are with the sharp thing on the end.
Bayonet.
And it looked like one of the, and what happens, the bones are in there and some cartilage starts to grow. So it is joined. It's just a very jagged collarbone now, and you can feel the different pieces in there.
Wow.
And then a year ago, I got torn rotator cuff. So I had to have an operation there. And now a couple of days ago, I took a stumble and fall. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but I
just thought that was a tattoo.
Well, it's a cut. That's one of the tattoos I go for. But so I ended up racking my knee up. I got a broken rib, and now I got the shoulder again on this side. Now my head hit when it hit that asphalt. I've been hitting the head a lot, and when I hit that, I hit my head as hard as I've ever been hit before. And part of this functional movement disorder thing, one of the doctors was asking me about concussions because they don't know, it could be something like that, like you've been hit so many times, like maybe a football player or something. Maybe it's something like that, CTE. And he told me, he said, tell me how many times you've been hit in the head. And I got up to about 20 times.
Holy cow.
I was a bouncer. I was not as big as you, but I was a bouncer. I could get in there. And I got to about 20, and the guy goes, you're making this up. And I said, I got about 20 more. I'm just getting warmed up. I've been hitting heads with bricks and whiskey bottles and pools.
Wow.
One guy tried to hit me with a hammer, and I guess maybe I wasn't such a good bouncer after all of it. It was easy to hit. I was easy to catch.
There you go. There you go. Well, how long? And you a bouncer just when you were younger, of course.
I was about 21, and I did that till about 28 or 29 when I met my wife at a bar. And she kind of, I'd gone out with other girls before, but this one my mom liked. She said, "Meet this one."
Yeah.
And I worked there a little bit more, and she finally one day said, "Is this what you want to do?" And it was like, "What? It's $50 a night. What do you mean? It's good cash."
Yeah.
And most of them were cash jobs. That what was nice about it. She said, maybe we better get something else lined up." And so we did, and ended up going to the post office, and
Yeah.
kind of civilized me a little bit.
Just want to say hi to Brenda Swanson Manny, my friend from up in Fargo, my sister Susan Babcock. Hello there. How are you? Lee Lycan said hello earlier. Denny Ryan, you guys, thanks for listening, watching. Joe Tanner right here.
Yeah.
Very interesting character. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. As I tell many people, one of the things that I did for a long time was I was in radio, and I'm pretty good at doing interviews, I think. But if nothing else, there you go. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. That's right, Brenda. That's right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the old just so you know, also Brenda, the old dog job. I got laid off on Friday, so with the intention of hiring back, but who knows? So anyway, we'll see how that works out. So Joe, right now, as you mentioned, you're on disability, so all of this coronavirus and stuff. That's my mother there, by the way. She would buy your book, Joe.
Hi, Mom. I'm actually writing a book. I got a book going.
Oh, excellent. Very interesting.
I'm about maybe 100 pages into it. And what it deals with is growing up small town Anoka with 8 kids, and a typical story of making a lot of money and not realize. I remember one part of the book went to show and tell in 4th grade, 3rd grade, whatever grade it was. And anybody got any show and tell? Tell something. And I got up front of the class and I told about how we had these people come over, and it was Christmas. I don't know what holiday it was, but these people brought bags of food to our house, and all these food and all these things. That's what I told my show and tell about. Wasn't that neat? And I assumed everybody had people that brought food to their house. I didn't know what this all meant. And the teacher called Mom, and she said, "Joey's up here." She didn't call me. She called me Joseph. She said Joseph is telling things he probably shouldn't be talking about in front of the class. And I got my ass kicked from my mom because you don't tell. And I didn't know we were poor, My dad didn't have a very good job. And I talk about some of these things in the book and growing up. One story, I don't know what school you went to, John, but we had, Levi's were a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't afford Levi's. And I ended up going it was in junior high, went out for a play. And my character was whatever character was. It was kind of like a hippie, tough guy. And my character wore Levi jeans, which they had. And so I had those on. It's like, I am living the dream because I have these Levi's. Well, when we turned in the costumes at the end of the play, I kept those. And they said, where are those pants? I said, I turned them in. I kept them so I would have a pair of Levi's to wear. So
wow.
My first pair.
So you said that you had 8 in the family, yeah? Where did you fall?
Well, we had 4 girls starting out. Mom and Dad had 4 girls. And then I came along. I was number 5. And then there was a girl and 2 more boys after me.
Okay, so you're right there in the middle.
Yeah.
You were what do they call that? What is it? Middle child syndrome?
Middle child. Yeah, there could be some of that. It was kind of like our family was in different groups. It was the 4 older ones where that was a family. It was the 4 girls. Then it was my mom called us the little kids, me, Lori, and Tim. We were the little kids. And then Corey was by himself, and I think I was 15 or 16 when he was born.
Very interesting.
He was kind of I don't know what you want to call it. a surprise. You know, Dad was well into his 50s when Corey came around, and
Oh, wow.
I think the story is, I don't know it quite, but my mom's mom died. Then my dad had a heart attack, and then the doctor called and said, "Millie, you're pregnant." So she had all this news like in 3 days. She was, almost 45 too. She was
Oh, yeah.
so.
Gosh.
So we kind of had 3 different parts of the family.
Very, very good. And you got along with all the family. You don't have any problems. A lot of times in a larger family, there's problems. There's always a problem child.
Yeah, well, I think I was kind of the problem child sometimes, because I remember at Christmas time, they would bring me to the store because I was probably the troublemaker at home, but I would get to see what everybody else got.
Gotcha.
No
Very
Santa
nice.
with.
Very nice. So, and now you're dealing with all of this, and by the way, when you do finish your book and whatnot, certainly, you got one sold to my mother. But drop a link here and we'll put it up, and I'll stick it right into this video as well, and we can do another video if you want to when your book comes out.
I'd love that.
Yeah. So, and I'm assuming that another part of your book will also be talking a little bit about how you're dealing with your mother's dementia right now.
Well, that's part of with that book I was telling you about. The book was going to be about growing up in Anoka, and then like it would be, here I was in Anoka, blah blah blah. Second part was the comedy. It was going to be like, that would be chapter 2.
Okay.
Here's how I got into comedy. Chapter 3 would go back to, here I am growing up in Anoka. I'm a little older, and it was going to be comedy life. Now I'm thinking about switching it to mom's dementia, because maybe that would tie in better. Growing up in Anoka, oh, here's mom having dementia, and she was. As a mailman, you can have your little earpiece on and you can talk to people pretty much the whole day while you're doing your mail.
Mm-hmm.
I would talk to mom 4, 5, 6 times every day. And she would start to say things like say if I talked about you, if I said, "Hey, John Russell called, he's taking me fishing." "Oh, okay, that's fine." And 10 minutes later, she'd say, "Well, how's John Russell? You haven't talked about him in a long time." I said, "Yeah, mom, he's taking me fishing." She wouldn't get that. And I would tell some of the others, "Hey, mom's starting to repeat herself a little bit more than I think she should." And at first it was kind of downplayed, and then it came out she did have dementia. And there was things at home, like my sister Lori was able to stay with her, and so she would make sure mom got to the store and things like that. But there was like the Meals on Wheels program.
Yep.
Mom started thinking that those, because one time she told me, she said, "I think they're spying on me." And I said, "Mom," I said, "I don't know if we should word it that way, but to some degree they are. But they're coming there to make sure you're okay, making sure you're up and you're not haven't got hurt. They want to make sure you get a meal." And she didn't really care for that. She didn't want to admit she needed help. And
and nobody does. I mean, that to be honest with you, Joe, that's what I did before I got this job that I got laid off of last week. That's what I was doing. I was doing home health care and taking care of people with dementia. Yeah. And it's a difficult thing to deal with, isn't it?
It's very different. And there was a story, and I don't know how it's going to go over, but the kids that I had mentioned that we had, our second oldest sister was born handicapped. She had cerebral palsy, bad heart, bad lungs, and when she was born, they told my folks, this is back in like 1953, they said, "Bring her up and put her in Cambridge." Cambridge, Minnesota had a state hospital. And because that's at the time what you did with your kids, you put them up there because they were vegetables or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. And they said, "No, this is what God gave us, and we're going to take care of her." And, they said she's going to live a year. Well, she lived to be 26.
Oh, wow.
But it was diapered the entire time. She was fed at the end out of like a syringe, tube fed. So we were taught the worst word in the world was retard. We couldn't call somebody a retard. We couldn't say cripple. We couldn't say mental. We couldn't say crazy. You'd be better off saying the F-bomb in our house.
Wow.
And one time we're at the nursing home, and I was sitting there with mom, and she was pretty much halfway through her journey. And there were all these people in the nursing home. They were banging their heads or drooling or singing or throwing stuff. And mom was just looking around. And to me, it would have driven me nuts. And I just looked at mom and the background we had with our sister. I said, "Mom, what do you think's going on here?" And she goes, "Joe, they're a bunch of goddamn retards." And she never would have talked like that.
Right.
Never would have talked like that ever. And I said, oh. And she goes, so I said, well, and I didn't talk to her much about her situation, but I said, well, what are you doing here? And she goes, I'm in a hotel. She thought she was living in a hotel room, and her house was getting fixed up when, in fact, it had to be sold. The money went to the county, and, the county, pays whatever toward the care until that money's gone. So we never really did tell her the house was gone. I think maybe it was hinted a couple times, but she never would have talked like that about somebody.
Right. And I think that's one of the difficult things about dementia is that the person who is not that person anymore.
Right.
And my dealings was, I had my last client on Thanksgiving. All of his kids called and talked to him. They all lived out of state. And so I was there with him on Thanksgiving Day, and they all called. It got him a little bit confused, and he thought we were in a hotel in Chicago, and we had to get home.
Right.
And then I had to lie to him and tell him we couldn't because there was a snowstorm.
Yeah.
And all the highways were closed. So we're better off to just wait till tomorrow, knowing that by tomorrow he will forget about the whole thing. Right. And that's the hard part, because I think it was easier for me because I wasn't family, even though I felt like I was. And to be honest, his kids treated me like I was. But because I was willing to do what needed to be done to make sure that he was placated. Right. And as a family member, sometimes it's harder to do that because you're still aching for mom or dad to be normal again.
Right.
And so that's always, to me, that was the most difficult part of the whole situation.
Right.
But having said, no, go ahead.
One thing that helped me through this, and maybe it was therapeutic and I didn't even know it, but I made a Facebook page called "You'll Always Be My Mama," and that's, no matter what, you're always going to be mom. And it was designed originally just so like we could share pictures with cousins and things. If here's a picture of mom, or and I would take my phone and I would take a little selfie video. Okay, mom, today is Tuesday. What's going on? And we would just talk on there and visit, and 2-3 minutes long. This thing ended up getting shared. When I would make videos, it went worldwide. It went viral. I would make a video with mom. Some of these videos, people would watch them 60,000 times. Wow. She would get Christmas cards and letters from all through the country. At Christmas time, she would get 300-400 Christmas cards, and they all loved Millie. And my mom was kind of sassy and kind of smart alecky, and she'd put you in your place, but it was in a witty, smart way. And so she had this little fan club going, and it just went bananas. How many people love to see these videos? And there'd be good ones and bad ones, and I did them tastefully. I wouldn't show when things were real bad. If you're having a real bad day, I would just come on and say, well, I'm up here and mom's not doing so well, so you get me. And people would come, oh, we want to see Millie today. Well, Millie's not up to it. And so now, because we lost mom in March, was 2 years. So it's been 2 years since she's been gone. And I still get on, I'll make videos, and I still share them to the different Facebook sites of how's it going. I've been through what some of you are going through, and every situation is different. And where we were lucky was we had 6 of us kids that lived right in town here. So mom had a visitor every day, and sometimes more than one. Where some of these people, it's just them. Or maybe like the man you were talking about, his family's all out of town where they couldn't call. Yeah. They had you, but they didn't have themselves, because they have jobs and different things like that. So mom was lucky in that way, but she would still, toward the end, it was confusion. It's like, I haven't seen you, Joe, in months. I was just here yesterday. Yep. And then we did the calendar thing. Joe was here Tuesday, Tim was here Wednesday, Lori. And she said, you're just lying about those. You're writing those names up there because you want me to think you were here. And we knew. Yeah.
It's one of those things. One of those things that's a little bit difficult because you want to have consistency for them, but yet there is no consistency. I honest to God, my client was awesome. And I loved him. I mean, you're not supposed to get attached to your clients, but I did. You can't help it. Right. I would get there on some days, and I would get there when he lived at his house. This is before he went into a facility. I get to his house and he'd say, man, it's lunchtime. I really got a taste for McDonald's French fries. Will you mind if we go get some? I'd say, yeah, why not? So we drive over to McDonald's, wasn't far from his house. We'd sit in the parking lot, eat some French fries, drive around the lake, and then go back to his house.
Yeah.
And we'd go in and we'd sit down 15 minutes and he'd say, man, those French fries were really good. Could we get some more? I'm like, yeah, I don't care. So we'd drive back over to McDonald's, we'd get them, we'd drive around the lake, and then go park at the house. And then we'd sit there longer, and it'd be about 15, 20 minutes before I was supposed to leave. And he'd say, gosh, I really got a taste for McDonald's French fries. And I'd say, you want me to go pick you up some? Because I got to leave. He'd say, oh, would you do that? And so I'd go over, get him a bag of French fries, bring it back home, and be on my way. And we did, Joe, we would do that. I mean, literally, before he had to go into a facility, we went to McDonald's. I would say the average twice every time I was there visiting him, and I was only on 3-hour shifts with him.
Right.
Wow. But it was what made him happy, and so that's why we did it.
Well, and that's, it's kind of funny because as serious as that is, there are some humorous moments and there's comedy.
Oh, God.
And one time, Mom had...
Okay, I found this on the web for serious as that is Garrison.
Hang on here. Somebody left their phone here, John.
We could sell it.
Yeah, we could. But somebody...
Hey, Rox, how are you? Good to see you, Rox.
Hi, Rox. I just got to mention to Rox, we're going to go up to Chet's when it opens again. I'm going to buy her lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Chet's by the lake. But anyway, one time Mom, and she had retired many years before, and Mom and Dad had one car. They shared the one car. And she said, she goes, I'm trying to get a hold of your dad. And Dad died in 1981. And she said, I need to get a hold of him. I got to go to work. The car. And so now it's like, okay, I got two things here. Do I tell her that they don't have a car at all anymore? Or do I tell her that Dad died in 1981? I didn't know which way to go. So then I finally said, Mom, I got to tell you something. I said, you've been retired for about 25 years. And I said, Dad passed away in 1981 and it's 2008 or 2013, whatever, 15, whatever year it was. And she goes, that SOB, that explains why he hasn't been up here for so long. Because she was pissed at him because he died 40 years ago, that SOB. So there were things like that, but
It's
you know what was that, John? When and my sister explained it best, I think, to me. She said, because Mom died, I didn't cry. And I know you're supposed to cry when your parents or somebody close to you died, and I didn't. And she said, because you lost Mom inch by inch every day, a little bit more. So you kind of prepared yourself for it, maybe.
And if your mother was anything like my client, and believe me, I know because I've had other clients too, but it manifests differently in every client. But for at least my client, and maybe this is true with your mother, at the point at which he finally did die, I felt like finally he can be at peace. He's not going to be confused anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know.
Mom got, very weak and she wasn't eating anymore. And, they called us in the last night and they said, tonight's the night we think she's going. And mom was Catholic. And it was weird because I don't know what we were, because she brought us to all these different churches. It's like we were at the First Baptist Church for a while, then we were Methodist, and we'd kind of go in spurts. So I was kind of a mutt when it came to religion. But Mom, they brought in the priest, and he had this stuff, and they do the last rites and all this stuff. And my one sister couldn't be there, and she asked, and it wasn't to be morbid, but she said, "Can you tape it with your phone so I can see it?" Because she, and it was sad, and we're like, this is not good and not fun. And we all kind of said goodbye to Mom, and she was just laying there and not awake at all, and the mouth hanging open. And my sister, we kind of took a little break. We went to get pop or something, and my sister kind of wet Mom's lips, and she started licking at the washcloth. It's like, she's still in there.
Yeah.
John, I swear to God, 3 hours later, she was sitting up in bed eating potato chips and drinking a shake from McDonald's. And it was like, what the hell just happened here? Because I wish I could talk to Mom or Dad one more time. We got that wish. And she lived for another 3 weeks. But it was weird because my brother was up there with her one time after this. And he said, Mom, this is weird because you're not supposed to be here. She goes, what do you mean? He said, well, you pretty much died. I did not. And he said, Joe had taped the priest giving you last rites. He did not. So he was on his phone. And so that was kind of a good, funny, good, bad, because we did get her for 3 weeks. And, then when she did go, I was at work when I got the phone. And I had seen her the night before, and they said she's going to linger for a couple of days. So, and it gets bad because you're at the point nowadays you have sick leave, and if you start using it, the post office gets down on you for using it because, hey, mom's dying. I don't care. You got to do your route. So you got those pressures being put on you. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to work, and I went to work, and I was there a couple hours, and that's when they called and just said she just quit breathing.
Yeah.
And so good. It wasn't the violent, and so that's how she died. And I remember, I think sometimes, how am I going to die? And some of the people on my post office route, the dog would come out. It might be a big pit or a Great Dane or something. They'll say, don't worry, he'll just lick you to death. It's not the way I want to go.
Exactly.
Get to heaven, and Dad would say, well, what happened? Did you stop a robbery? No. Drive off a cliff? No, I got licked to death by a poodle. You think you still haven't done anything yet.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Joe, it's been great talking with you and getting to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
And for all of you that are watching, we certainly appreciate it. Peace comes in. That's right. Peace is not for us, at least not at first. You're right, Tim. Good to see you, buddy. Tim's down in Rochester, by the way, Joe.
Okay.
But it was great to talk to you. I appreciate you coming on with me. For all of you that were watching today, I appreciate it very, very much. What I'm hearing is that I think it's at 2:00, the news conference that the governor has is going to be different because word came out that he is self-quarantined because apparently somebody in the staff has come out as positive for coronavirus. Thanks, Lee. We appreciate you watching, buddy.
Lee Lycan.
And we miss you over there in Milwaukee, buddy.
One of the best. You know what Lee Lycan did for me once?
Tell me.
I don't know if I should, because then he might be obligated to do it for others. We had him at the loft, and it was a bad night, and we had maybe 10, 15 people there. And Lee said, what's going to happen here? Because whatever money I owed him, I don't know. And he just said, tell you what, he goes, you keep it. You don't owe me anything.
Oh, wow.
There's not many comics that'll say anything like that, like even give me half. He just said, this one's on me.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lee Lycan has always treated me very, very well. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the guys that I would like to get on and talk with as well, because he's been doing comedy for a long time too, but he's got a day job. Yep. So maybe if you're stuck at home, Lee, you'll want to hop on one day with me.
Right.
But anyway, so
I got a question.
Yeah.
Is this going to be something folks can come back and watch later?
Absolutely. Once they're up here, they're on my page. They won't go away as long as and I think that link on your page will be there too.
Well, okay.
So you can give that a check when we get done.
Okay.
But everything that we put up here, I don't take it off.
Right.
Because why? And then I also am kind of using it as a little bit of a archive for what happens as we move along. I'm trying to do one every day. Yeah. I didn't do one on Saturday, and on
your sister no-showed you now. Is that, did I read that?
Well, my sister's a real, I was on with Logan Nielsen, who I had a lot of fun with, and he's a nice young guy. And my sister came on and pretty much heckled us unmercifully.
I saw that.
And then when everybody said, well, you should have your sister on, and so she turned up sick.
How do you no-show something where you don't even have to show up for? You just call in.
She's too sick. She couldn't do it from bed. She didn't want to look bad in bed, and I understand that because my sister's kind of a diva.
Okay.
But a lovable diva, and I don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm mad at my sister. It's just that I'm disappointed.
Well, you'll get her on there, I'm sure.
She'll be on sooner or later. But anyway, folks, I like I said, I think coming up, we're going to hear today that the state of Minnesota is going to go on even tighter. All non-essential are going to be closed. From what I'm hearing,
I would think I kind of do that door dashing on the side.
Yeah.
Do you think they're gonna, like, because I know right now they've, like, Burger Kings and all those little places you can go and pick up your call-in order. I wonder if they're gonna shut down even things like that.
I don't know. I know that grocery stores, pharmacies, and I'm assuming the airport, even though I don't know, that's another thing too. She didn't sing, Denny, and that's a thing. My sister is terrible. She should be on here. She should be on here for at least a half an hour, taking my insults as she should. Anyway, I think those are the essential things, and I think delivery. My son works for one of the contractors for Amazon, and I believe they're still considered essential.
Okay.
So DoorDash may be, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what that is. But Governor Walz is quarantined, so this will be interesting to see how this all comes down. Apparently, Senator Amy Klobuchar's husband has tested as positive, and as everybody's saying, it's going to get a lot worse this week than it was last week. So hopefully, everybody don't travel unless you need to, and don't go anywhere unless you need to, and hopefully, just wash your hands 24 hours a day,
Right.
And never ever touch your face. But having said all of that, Joe, thank you so much for being on with me, and everybody, thank you so much for watching. Today was a good day for you guys to be with me, only because my job issues are not the greatest. But having said that, we're all in it together. I'm not the only one, and I feel pretty good about that. And I also feel good about the fact that, you know what, I'm not homeless. So anyway, Joe Tanner, thank you so much, everybody. Tomorrow at 1:00, Andy Fisher.
Andy's good.
Yeah, Andy's a good guy, and he's going to be on with me tomorrow, and we'll see what he's up to. I know he's been working on a web series that he started a couple of years ago, and is getting that real close to being done. Also, he was the last guy. He was the guy that ran the Goonies open mic into the ground after I left. It had nothing to do with him. But anyway, thank you so much, folks. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 1:00.